He hadn't come from privilege, nor from the polished marble halls where fortunes were handed down like heirlooms. Adrian Vaylor was born in a cramped neighborhood where every coin had to be stretched, where his mother kept food on the table with sheer stubbornness, and where his father vanished before Adrian was old enough to pronounce his name. By the time he was 15, he'd learned that the world didn't offer favors. If you wanted something, you took it, and if someone stood in your way, you moved them, by words, by money, or by fire. By 42, Adrian owned more than any man could possibly use in 3 lifetimes. Entire oil networks bent to his will, corporate skyscrapers bore his insignia, and somewhere in the Caribbean, an island lay untouched because he couldn't be bothered to visit it. His empire was so vast that a single hour of his company's revenue eclipsed what small countries generated in a year. He had clawed his way into the circle of the world's untouchables, the iron-fisted elite, the men who bent markets to their liking. But there was something he had never owned, something he had never even allowed himself to want. Love. He didn't trust it, didn't value it, and he had built walls so high around his heart that no one dared climb. To the world, he was the brute billionaire, the man with no apologies. Literally, his private jet bore the words, "No apologies," in bold silver letters across its hull. His board of directors whispered his name like it was a storm. His employees lived in a permanent state of caution, afraid to be the spark that triggered his infamous rage. No family, no friends, no lovers that lasted longer than a sunrise. He collected women like cufflinks, useful accessories for appearances, discarded before morning coffee. A man carved out of steel. Until the cupcakes. It was a brutal summer morning in Manhattan, the kind where the city steamed with impatience and tempers. Adrian stormed out of his penthouse with his phone glued to his ear, his voice slicing through the humid air. "I don't care if the mayor himself has a stake. Buy the property or tear it to the ground. Your choice." His driver stiffened as Adrian slid into the car. At headquarters, the building was already swarming with security. They always did double sweeps before his arrival, because no one wanted to be responsible if something unexpected occurred. Adrian loathed surprises. But that morning, there was one. On the gleaming marble counter of his 23rd floor office sat a foreign object, a small pink box tied with twine, and a card written by hand. "Thank you for your kindness. See." He stared at it as if it were a bomb. "Who put this here?" His voice cracked like a whip. His assistant Mara stammered. I thought it was a gift from one of the department heads." "I don't get gifts," he cut her off coldly. "I get invoices." With the tip of a pen, Adrian lifted the lid. Inside sat 6 cupcakes, still faintly warm. Lemon zest, lavender, red velvet, chocolate chip. The smell alone was almost disarming. Almost. "Get the security tapes," he growled. Across the city, Clara Navarro wiped flour from her cheek as she pulled another tray of muffins from the oven. Her morning had been chaos. The delivery boy quit, she was behind on an order, and she was sweating in her tiny kitchen that doubled as her life's dream. She had promised a large batch for a corporate event. Floor 22, she'd been told. Only in the rush, she had delivered to the wrong floor. Floor 23, Adrian Vaylor's floor. By noon, Adrian had the footage in hand. Grainy but clear enough, a woman with brown curls pinned in a messy bun, flour dusting her apron, carrying a cardboard box. No badge, no clearance. She'd strolled right past his guards and into his empire like it was nothing. He was mid-sentence ordering a firing squad of terminations when his phone buzzed. A private number, text only. "Sorry, wrong floor. But I hope you like the cupcakes." Clara. No one told him sorry. Not board members, not politicians, not anyone. And certainly not a stranger named Clara. His fingers moved before his pride could stop them. "You trespassed." The reply came instantly. "I baked, you ate. Let's call it even." His jaw clenched. He should have blocked the number. But instead, that evening, he found himself staring into his trash bin where 5 cupcakes lay untouched. One remained, vanilla bean with caramel drizzle. Against his better judgment, he bit into it. And for the first time in years, Adrian almost swore aloud. Not from anger, but from shock. It was flawless. The next morning, he didn't ask his assistant for quarterly numbers. He didn't order another acquisition. He simply stood by his window, coffee in hand, and muttered, "Find me that baker." When Clara received his assistant's call, she laughed, then ignored the second one. The email went unanswered. But by the third day, when a man appeared at her stall with a letter embossed with Adrian's signature seal, she couldn't dismiss it. She read his handwritten note 3 times. "If your cakes are this good, I can only imagine what you could build with real support. One meeting, no strings. AV." Curiosity finally won. Their meeting took place at exactly 3:09 p.m. His office was steel and glass, silent and intimidating. He didn't shake her hand. He didn't smile. "You're stubborn," he said flatly. "And you're rude," she shot back without hesitation. For a moment, she thought she'd gone too far. But instead of exploding, Adrian Vaylor did something no one at that office had seen him do in years. He smiled. Clara set a tin of cookies on his desk. "A bribe," she explained. He stared at them, then at her. "Are you always this chaotic? Only with billionaires who think money solves people?" And he laughed. Actually laughed. The conversation stretched for 2 hours. Clara spoke about her father, who had taught her to bake before cancer took him too early. About working 2 jobs, scraping together rent, and dreaming of a bakery that would never exist because New York was merciless. Adrian listened, silent, attentive. At the end, he made his offer. "I'll invest, your shop, your name, complete creative control, you bake, I fund. And what do you get out of it? You," he said simply, "and a stake in a business worth believing in." Her heart stumbled. She should have walked, but she didn't. 3 weeks later, Crumbs and Light opened its doors in Soho, a bakery with soft blue awnings, bright white tiles, and shelves of pastries that drew lines around the block. The press swarmed, calling Clara the Cupcake Cinderella. And every morning, without fail, Adrian Vaylor arrived at 7:02 a.m., sharp, ordered the same cupcake, vanilla bean with caramel drizzle, and left without explanation. She began to understand him. The routine wasn't about taste, it was about discipline, control. Until one morning, the routine broke. He arrived late, his suit jacket slung over his shoulder, tie missing, a faint bruise at his temple. Clara paused mid-icing. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," he said, but his jaw tightened, and for the first time he didn't look untouchable. She stepped out from behind the counter. "Adrian, what happened?" He hesitated, then exhaled. "Family happened." Clara frowned. "I thought you didn't have any." A humorless chuckle left his lips. "Neither did I, until yesterday when someone showed up claiming to be my half-brother. Apparently, my father lived a second life." And with that, everything Clara thought she knew about Adrian Vaylor began to unravel. Adrian Vaylor had never been a man to dwell on the past. Yet in the quiet hours of the morning, when the city outside was still hushed and Clara's bakery smelled of sugar and warmth, the shadows of his past seemed determined to push through the walls he'd built. It started with a conversation neither of them had planned. He told her about the man who claimed to be his half-brother, the old name that dragged wounds back into his life. Clara, leaning on the counter with flour dusted across her apron, didn't look away. "And what do you want?" she asked. His eyes burned with the kind of truth he rarely admitted. To never hear his name again. For a moment she said nothing, then her voice dropped to something softer. "You think shutting people out keeps you safe? But all it really does is keep you alone." His gaze darkened. "You think I don't know that? I think," she said carefully, "you've spent your whole life training yourself not to feel anything real. And yet, here you are, walking into a bakery, sitting at my counter, showing up every morning like a man who wants to feel something, whether you admit it or not." He didn't answer, didn't argue. Instead, he stayed 2 whole hours. Sat in the corner table in silence, drinking coffee that had gone cold, eyes tracking her every move like she was the only thing in the room that made sense. That weekend, she found a box on her doorstep, wrapped neatly, sealed with care. Inside were antique baking tools, wooden handles, polished steel, pieces collectors would fight over. No card, no signature. but she knew. The next morning when he came in, she looked at him directly. "Thank you for the gift." A smirk tugged at his mouth. "You assume too much." "You assume I don't recognize your handwriting," she countered. For once, he looked caught. He didn't bother with excuses, only said, "You needed better tools. I need fewer secrets." The smile slipped from her lips. They didn't kiss, not yet, but something unspoken shifted. It was quieter than chemistry, stronger than attraction. Something dangerously close to trust, but trust drew enemies. 2 weeks later, Clara's suppliers mysteriously tripled their flower prices overnight. Her lease, previously signed and secured, suddenly fell under review. A health inspector appeared twice in 1 week. It didn't take a genius to piece it together. Someone out there wanted her to know. Her success wasn't welcome. Not with Adrian Vaylor's name tied to hers. Not with the most ruthless man on Wall Street showing up at a cupcake shop every morning like he cared. The message was simple: stay in your place. That night, after locking up, she found him waiting on the bench outside. Jacket draped beside him, posture carved from stone. "I'm being targeted," she said flatly. "Because of you." His expression didn't flicker. "I know." Her breath caught. "You knew?" "I expected it," he admitted, "the moment I backed you. Then why didn't you warn me? Because if I had," his eyes fixed on hers, "you'd have said no." Clara folded her arms. "Do you regret it?" "No." He stood, the night swallowing the space between them. After a long pause, his voice softened. "I've built my life on things no one could break. And then you built something they're desperate to break. Do you know why?" Her throat tightened. "Why?" "Because it's beautiful." She didn't know whether to kiss him or slap him. Instead, she walked away, her hands trembling, because she knew, deep down, she was falling for a man who didn't know how to fall back. The pressure mounted. Paparazzi camped outside her shop. Blogs churned out headlines dripping with mockery. Cupcake Queen ensnared by Wall Street wolf. Vaylor's vanilla obsession, real or PR stunt. Clara ignored them, but her mother didn't. "Be careful," her mother warned over the phone. "Men like him don't marry girls like us." Clara didn't argue, but the words stung, and then the fire came. At 3:12 a.m., a Molotov cocktail shattered the back window of Crumbs and Light. Flames roared, licking up walls and swallowing half her kitchen before firefighters put it out. Clara sat on the curb, soot streaking her face, heart breaking as smoke curled into the night sky. Adrian didn't arrive in a chauffeured car. He came running, shirt untucked, no suit, no armor. The moment he saw her, he dropped to his knees, cupping her face in his hands. "I swear, whoever did this, I don't care about revenge," she whispered hoarsely. "I care that I'm losing everything I built." "You're not," he said fiercely. "We'll fix it." "No." Her eyes burned. "I'll fix it." He looked at her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. And then, for the first time in his life, Adrian Vaylor kissed someone not with hunger, not with power, but with an ache he didn't know how to control. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't possession. It was something gentler, something terrifyingly new. The bakery closed for 8 days. In that time, Adrian never left her side. He scrubbed smoke stains from walls, replaced ovens, ordered equipment overnight, paid every invoice without a word. They slept side by side on her tiny sofa, unspoken truths hovering in the quiet between them. Love had entered the room. Neither of them knew how to handle it. And then one morning, a letter arrived, a thick cream envelope, gold seal, addressed to Clara. Inside, a formal notice from Vaylor Global Legal. The words cut deeper than fire. She was ordered to remove the name Crumbs and Light from all signage and products on grounds that the name was legally owned by her investor, Adrian Vaylor. She read it 3 times. Her blood went cold. If this was true, then he didn't just love her, he owned her. She didn't call, didn't text. She locked the bakery doors, left town without a word. For the first time in 20 years, Adrian Vaylor didn't know what to do. He had faced Senate investigations, tabloid scandals, billion-dollar lawsuits. But Clara's absence terrified him more than any of it. The letter had blindsided her. He knew it the second he saw her bakery dark, the closed until further notice sign taped to the glass. He stood there in the rain for 20 minutes, staring into the shadows like she might reappear if he just waited. She didn't. Calls went unanswered. Her phone, dead. Her mother's number, disconnected. For once, Adrian had no leverage, no bargaining chip, no control. The next morning, Mara found him in his office. Yesterday's clothes, eyes bloodshot. The letter still clutched in his hand like evidence of a crime. "You didn't send that," she said gently. "No," he rasped, "but it came from my legal department." "Yes. Do you want me to find out who authorized it?" He shook his head. "No." "Why not?" His eyes dropped back to the page. "Because it's my fault anyway." Mara hesitated, then set a folder on his desk. "This is everything Clara signed when you funded her shop. You told me to fast-track it. I pushed it through. You never read the details." Adrian opened it, his chest hollowed, and there it was, in black ink, a clause buried deep in the contract. A clause that made it all true. The words stared back at him like a sentence carved in stone. All brand identities, names, and intellectual property associated with entities financed under Capital Holdings shall be considered co-owned and may be retracted at any time under executive directive. He had given the order. He had rushed it. He had never read the damn clause. And because of that, Clara had trusted him, only to discover her name stamped into his empire like she was just another asset. She left without a word. 2 hours north of Manhattan, in a cramped apartment above her cousin Rose's diner, Clara tried to breathe in a world without cameras, headlines, or caramel drizzle. She had only time to replay every moment. The first cupcake, the first meeting, the way his eyes softened when he thought no one else was looking. And then the letter, cold, legal, brutal. Rosa asked her one night, "Are you in love with him?" Clara hesitated. "I was. You don't stop being in love just because it hurts, but I need to." "Then why?" Rosa pressed. "Do you check your phone every 5 minutes?" Clara said nothing, because Rosa was right. Meanwhile, Adrian was tearing through his company like a man possessed. The attorney who authorized the letter was fired before lunch. The legal team was gutted and rebuilt. Every supplier that had dropped Clara received a call and a threat to be sued into dust if they didn't restore her contracts. Then came the public apology, a handwritten note posted on every major platform. The clause was a mistake. My mistake. She is not owned. She is the reason I changed. It went viral in 3 hours. Hashtag #Jacrumbs of Gold trended for days. But still, no word from Clara, not until he showed up at the diner. No entourage, no driver, no suit. Just Adrian Vaylor in a hoodie and jeans, standing in the rain like a man who had been stripped bare. Clara saw him from the kitchen window and dropped the spoon she was stirring. He didn't move, didn't knock, just waited. She stepped outside. The rain hissed on the awning above them. He held out a dented tin. "Your first cookie tin," he said quietly. "You gave it to me the day we met. I kept it." She didn't take it. "Why are you here?" "To apologize." "You did that already, in a press release." "No." His voice cracked. "That was to the world. This is for you." His eyes searched hers, raw and unguarded. "I didn't read the papers I signed. I trusted the wrong people, but none of that matters. What matters is that I hurt you. I turned what we had into a transaction." Her lip trembled. "You made me feel like a product." "I know." His voice dropped to a whisper. "And I will never forgive myself for that." Silence hung between them, sharp and heavy. Then Clara asked the question she hadn't dared until now. "Do you love me?" Adrian didn't blink. "I don't know what love is, Clara. No one ever gave it to me clean. But if love is waking up with your name in my mouth, if love is standing in the rain like a fool because I'd rather drown than not see your face again, then yes, I love you." Her breath shook. "Do you want to own me again?" "No." His voice was certain. "I want to build a life where I don't just walk into your shop. I walk home." Her tears spilled freely now. When he reached for her, she didn't stop him. And this time, when they kissed, it wasn't a question. It was the answer. They reopened the bakery together. The new sign above the door read, Navarro and Valer. The press swarmed, but Clara handled them with grace. Adrian stayed behind the counter, pouring coffee, wiping tables, learning how to ask instead of command. She taught him to roll dough without breaking it. He taught her how to scale without selling out. Together they didn't just survive, they thrived. 6 months after the fire, Navarro and Valer wasn't just a bakery, it was a movement. People traveled across the world to see the shop where redemption had taken root. Newspapers called it the place where power learned to knead flour. For once, Adrian didn't mind being a headline. Clara's mother visited in spring. She stood just inside the door, arms crossed, eyes scanning like she didn't trust how clean it was. Clara handed her a napkin-wrapped cookie. Chocolate orange. Your favorite. Her mother sniffed, took a bite and muttered, "He's still rich?" Clara laughed. "Very." Her mother nodded once. "Good. At least if he breaks your heart, he can afford to glue it back together." That night, Adrian asked, "Do you think she'll ever like me?" "She respects you," Clara said. "That's enough. She doesn't smile easily." He paused. "That used to be me. You learned. I'm still learning." And he was, every day. Years later, Navarro and Valer had 4 bakeries, a bookstore cafe, and 2 children who thought vanilla bean cupcakes were a food group. Adrian still hated surprises. Clara still refused to franchise overseas. But every morning, no matter where they were, in Tokyo, in Sicily, or at home, they kept one ritual. At exactly 7:02 a.m., they shared a cupcake together, always the same kind, vanilla bean, caramel drizzle, the taste of everything they'd built. Not from steel, not from fear, from crumbs and fire.